Hello and welcome to episode 2 of my imperfect knitting life. First of all, I want to say I'm absolutely blown away by the number of views my first video got and also by the number of subscribers. So thank you very much, everybody. And I'm actually a lot more nervous this time than I was the first time. But anyway, I'm just going to get in there and get on with it. So if you do like my channel, just give me the thumbs up and subscribe if you want to. I'm not really happy about having to say this every time, but I'm going to keep it as short and sweet as I can. But anyway, thank you very, very, very much. I've also had some lovely comments from some people all over the world. So that's exactly what I say about the knitting world. It's just such a thing that we can all share together. So thank you. Right, so I feel like what I would like to start off with is the burial of the Queen. This last week has been so eventful. I've got so much to talk about. I'm going to have to shove the knitting in there somewhere. So the first thing was the Queen's procession and her burial. I recorded that and worked my way through that. It was very emotional, and I just really feel for all the people in the United Kingdom and all the people that have lost someone that they feel is very special to them. I can't remember life without the Queen. I don't think of her as Queen Elizabeth. I just think of her as the Queen. And she's always been there. So she's going to be a big gap for all of us. Something else that happened that for me was very eventful in the last week was that my daughter had her baby, and so we now have lovely little Sophie in the world, and I was very lucky. I was at the birth and was with Claire Marie throughout her labour and caught little Sophie, so that was such an honour, and I'm very, very grateful for that. She had an awesome team. She had her own midwife from where she lives. A student was there. Her husband was there. I was there. Her other little person, Lila, went off with some other grandparents, and Claire Marie had her baby at home. Very straightforward, I think. She probably thinks it was something else, but she had a good birth. So just to let those people know that wanted to know about when she was going to have her baby. So I've been very lucky because I've actually been at most of my grandchildren's births, and 3 of them have been home births, and I have been at all 3 of those. 2 of them were actually born in my house. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's actually something that commonly happens in other countries in the world. I don't think it does, and I could talk about that sometime because some people have asked me to talk a little bit more about midwifery, and I can do that. But this is predominantly a knitting podcast, so I'm going to talk about my knitting. So I've also got news about the mill, but I'm going to first talk a little bit about the knitting. So I have to fess up and tell you I have no finished objects this week. I was so busy. I went and stayed with Claire Marie and helped her for a little bit, and we've had the funeral. And the other thing is, it's spring in New Zealand. I've had to get seedlings in, things planted, beds dug, and try and get those things going every time that it's not raining. So it's kind of impacted a little bit on my knitting time. But I have started, so no finished objects, but I have started a couple of things, and I'll show you those. The one was the Utivist Utivist. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but I'll grab it. So it's very much in the early stage, but it's not a pattern that I think I'll just be able to sit and knit for long periods, because there's a lot of shaping in the body. I had to do short rows at the very beginning to get that lowered back piece I talked about. So if you're not sure what the Utivist is, I did talk about it on episode 1. Maybe I should grab it up again and show you, but this is what I've done. So it's going to be steeked. Let me show this one here. All right, so can you just see that wool? This is Plotuloppi wool. and it's quite hairy, as you can see, and it's the short and the long hairs that actually give it that warmth. And so it's knitted in the round, and then at the front you do 2 purl stitches, and that's where it's going to be steeked. So I'm sure most people who know about steeking know that you basically cut that piece up, cut up that seam, and then it doesn't unravel. So I'll show you that as we go along. So it's got a twisted rib, which was quite interesting. I had to look on Helene Magnusson's YouTube and see how she did that twisted rib. So that was something a little different. And then over here are the short rows that make the longer back bit. So you can see there's the back, and I've literally just done a couple of rows in the front. So I will show you that as we progress down the track. But maybe for those people who haven't seen the Utivist, I'm going to literally just stop quickly and grab that. So this is the Utivist by Helene Magnusson, who lives in Iceland, and it is an outer garment, and I'm knitting it in a double-stranded Plotuloppi, which is an unspun yarn, and that's the picture there. And I did talk about it in episode 1, so if you really want to know a little bit more, go back. But basically I am just here at the bottom, so not very far along, but I have to start shaping the waist soon, so it's not something that I can actually just sit and knit. I'm going to have to concentrate on it a little bit, and I will just show you the Plotuloppi yarn. If you don't know what an unspun yarn is. So for those who don't, basically it's like the carded wool which has been drafted, and if you see that, it just pulls apart. Other people have shown this so much more effectively, but if you put a little bit of twist in it, it's stronger. And so when you knit it, if you're knitting close by, you know, like this, it's strong, it doesn't break. It's only if you do that. So it's Icelandic wool, it's ancient sheep. I don't think they've been interbred with other sheep, and I got mine from Iceland, but you can get it other places as well. What's really interesting is there are actually quite a lot of different unspun yarns around the world, and there was another one from Spain called, I think, Manchelopi. I thought that would be very nice to try. Canada also have one. There's a woman in Germany that makes some. Is it wool and twine? I'm not sure, but she started an unspun collection, what do you want to call it, and I think there's one in Norway, and I did find one in New Zealand, but the one in New Zealand's not as fine as the ones in overseas that I've seen, but this is one that is done here in New Zealand, and it's quite thick. There's only 75 meters on 100 grams, and the things that I saw them, it was pretty chunky. So, you know, if you wanted to make a blanket or an outer garment, it probably would work quite well. But yes, so I've started the Utivist, and the other thing that I started, one of my all-time favorite patterns, and it's not only my all-time favorite, it's the mamas of my grandchildren. I know that they've loved this one, and it's a little vest. So that one there, which comes out of a Patons knitting book, number R23. Now I've got the original book, and I got that from an opportunity shop, but I photocopied it because it's really quite well, not damaged, but it's very fragile, so I didn't want to damage it anymore. In fact, I think my mum's got it. All the needle sizes are in the old-fashioned English 10s and 12s, which I had to translate into millimeters because that's what I work in. But anyway, what I've usually used is a sock yarn because it's quite washable, and a lot of parents don't like things that they have to hand wash, but what I knitted that one up in, and I made a bit of a boo-boo, so you'll see my imperfect bit coming up, is I've knitted it in this Opal sock yarn. You see it there? And I've actually done it in the biggest size, which I think is a 3-year-old. And there's not enough wool to do the sleeves. I've got enough that I can do the ribbing on the sleeves. So I've tried 2 different, and I'm not sure what anybody else thinks, but this is a Holstgarn, and it is wool and silk. So that's one of them, a possibility. So I thought I might do the sleeve in that, and then just do the ribbing edge in this, in the sock yarn again. So that is a Holstgarn, and it is 70% wool, 30% silk. But it's not the shiny silk. I think it's the non-shiny silk, which is nice. But there was another one I tried. Oops, fell on the floor. Oh yeah, here it is. And this is, the life of me, hang on. I'm so good at forgetting things. A Debbie Bliss Fine Donegal, which is merino wool and cashmere. And that I think is a little bit too bright for the original. So I feel like I'm probably going to go with the green, and I will definitely have that to show you next time as a finished object. So there's not many things that I knit in the flat, but this is one of them, and it's very cute. So you knit the front, you split it, and then you do a garter stitch. I think this is called a placket anyway. And then when you knit the other side, you add on 6 stitches, and then you knit the other placket. And then it's got a lovely neckline actually, and then you do some decreasing, and then afterwards you pick up stitches around the neck and you knit 6 rows there. So one of my boo-boos, one of my mistakes, is I think it was meant to have another buttonhole in it, but I've missed one buttonhole out, so it's only going to have 2 buttonholes, but it'll be fine. In fact, sometimes I don't even do them up. But the good thing about the Opal sock yarn is it's quite washable, and I have stash busted with that because it was sitting around and I thought, oh, I'll give that one a go. So that basically is my work in progress. So if you were here just for knitting, there's not much of that, but I thought I could show you something that I've made or completed a while ago, just to show you something. So this one here is a shawl. I'll put it on and show you. So it is a traditional Danish fisherwoman's shawl, and I got the pattern off Ravelry. It's a free download. Okay, you tie it, or they used to tie them at the back here, so it was out of the way of them working, but it would keep them toasty warm. So I hand dyed this wool. It was a Romney, and I got it from a yarn place or a wool place in a town not too far away from here called Karapiro, and the lady there was, even then, 10 plus years ago, probably in her 70s, and she sold the wool on the farm that she had, and somebody else spun it for her, and then she used to also do some hand dyeing. So I've made some blankets actually with some of the hand dyed stuff that I've got off her, and I can show you that sometime. But I got this, and it's got such a lovely bounce to it. So I'll grab the pattern up, but it's on Ravelry. There was a little lace edge, which was quite simple, and I enjoyed that. But it's meant to have a little lace edge at the top, but I don't think I've got enough wool to complete that. I've just got a little ball here. That's all I've got left, and I don't think it's enough to do the lace edge. And to be perfectly honest, I quite like it simple, and it definitely is a good little neck warmer, coverer. It's nice and stretchy. So on Ravelry, I'm going to get the picture up and show you. It's this one. I can't even pronounce it. Kællingesjal 1897 Recreation Museum, Denmark. But here it is. So you can see there's a lovely little edging that goes around the neck, and I haven't done that. But it was a very nice pattern, and it's free. So if you want, give it a go. Yeah, so that's something else that I made. I think it's an 8 ply, but I'll have to have a little look on the pattern to see what it was that I used. And then the other thing I wanted to show you was the Versal that we talked about last time. So I made a brown one. Oops, I can actually see leaves on it, so I should have had a look at it before I started my podcast, but here goes. I'll do another quick change. And so again, with the Versal, it had shaped short rows around the neck. And this is a long sleeve version. The other one I showed you was my first one, and that was short sleeve. And the long sleeve one, I've also made that so that it's sort of shortish, just sits into the waist. I like that. I love that neck. I talked about that last time too. It is warm, but not too close to the neck, which is nice. And I also did slightly loose, puffy sleeves. I can't even remember if that was in the pattern or if I just adjusted it myself. And again, you've got the consignal shoulder shaping, which gives you a really nice fit, in my opinion. I love it. And that was in a Nutiden. That's, my sister lives in Norway, and she sent me a little message to say, this is how you say it, Nutiden. So in the Nutiden. So it's much lighter than the Plotuloppi, and it's also quite hairy. Look, and I love it. I can wear it, well, not right next to my skin, but it doesn't itch me on the places that I do have it. So that's my Versal, and I'll put a reference in where you can have a look at that as well. So I don't think I'm going to talk about another finished object unless I feel I have a little bit of time later on. But what I wanted to tell you was I have a date for the machines coming over for the mill, and it's next week. I think the 28th or 29th is what the guy said. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, because just because somebody says they can do it that day doesn't mean they can do it that day, but at least I have an idea that it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. So on Friday, my electrician is going to Otterahonga and he's disconnecting all the machines and getting it ready for moving. And then next week, the haulage guy, I don't even know what to call him, carter, haulage guy, he's going over with, he's got like a crane, a forklift. He's got a friend over there who's going to bring his forklift, and then he's dropping his own forklift this side. So I'm going to try and get a little bit of video footage of that process, because I'm going to drive over the day that he goes, so I can just have a look at it all being packed up and give Julie a big hug and say thank you and wave goodbye with the machinery and go into the distance. So that's quite exciting. Now, I did want to say something, like Julie has a lot of beautiful alpaca yarn, and Riverdale Alpacas. She's on Facebook, and honestly, I can highly recommend her yarn. It's soft, it's light, it knits beautifully. And price-wise, I think it's very reasonable. Just hang on a second, because I want to show you something. Right, this is something I bought, New Zealand Naturally. So this is a commercial yarn. And it does have possum in. So it's 55% alpaca, 35% merino, 10% possum. I made a cardigan. I haven't got a picture of it, but I made a little cardigan for one of my grandchildren out of this, and I didn't pay the original price. That was $25 a kilo. I paid $15 a kilo. I mean a kilo, a ball. And so that's a 50-gram ball. And Julie's yarn is more reasonable than that. And I would say softness wise, it is softer than this. So if you want to have a look at her yarn, I would go and have a little look at her Facebook page, because once that's gone, I don't actually know if she's going to be producing anymore, because she doesn't have a mill unless she comes over here and does it here, but we'll see. So have a little look. I'm going to stop a minute. One other thing I just want to say about Julie's yarn is alpaca can often be quite heavy, but actually hers is very light, and it's perfect for next to the skin, and it's a joy to knit with. So and I know that just from that little bit that I got. What I want to talk about now, because I've always got to get to what am I drinking. So it's not coffee. I've had 2 coffees today. I'm like, woo, with caffeine. So I'm drinking a red bush tea, and or rooibos, if you want to call it that. And I've got some of my own honey in it and a bit of lemon. And I can see floating in there is actually wax from the honey and a dead ant. Now, when I say dead ant, I have a daughter-in-law who can taste ant in water. Like, I just didn't even know that was a thing. So I can't taste the ant, or if I taste the ant, I don't mind the flavor of the ant. But sometimes ants get into the water container that's in the coffee machine. She can taste it, and I'm like, no, how can you do that? Get the water thing out of the coffee machine, empty it out. Bob's your uncle. 3 ants in there. Ollie can taste the ant. Same with a kettle. I made her a cup of tea. She goes, I'm sorry, I can't drink this. I can taste ant. I was like, really? So I get the kettle, pour the water all out. Yes, there's an ant, a dead ant in the kettle. But I personally, I can drink wax and I can drink ant. Doesn't make any difference to me. So here goes. Cheers. I've had some really nice comments from people around the world, and people asking me questions and stuff like that, like I said earlier. And at some point I will probably have a look at some of those things and talk about them a little bit more. What I do want to say is, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought, but a little bit more on the mill stuff. I have a logo, which I was very lucky because someone I know drew it up for me, and I'm going to tell you this little story about this because I'd like to share it with you. So one of the first clients I ever had in the first year I practiced midwifery 20 years ago, we've maintained contact all this time, and her daughter is now at uni. So she's studying a design course, and she said to me, oh, I can do your logo. I've done logos for other places, blah, blah. And it took me ages to get my logo idea to her. So finding a name for the mill was a big job. So I've actually called it the Little Mill Over the Hill, because you kind of go over a little hill to get to the shed at the back. And she said, oh, just draw some ideas, draw some things up. And I thought, you got no idea, I cannot draw. So I eventually came up with this on a little post-it note. And I sent that to her. Hilarious. It was so embarrassing. I said to her, I said, I'm so sorry. I just can't believe that I actually sent that to you. But she came up with this logo, which I've had to take a picture of because it's, on my phone. And I think that's so cute. The Little Mill Over the Hill, from fleece to fibre and yarn. And, well, how you can actually end up with that from my little pencil drawing, I don't know. But Hannah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, so that's the logo. And I have watched another podcast, which one of my subscribers recommended to me. And it's a woman in America who has a mill very similar to mine. And she shares so much information. I've learned stuff. It's like free advice, free information in such a good way. I just have so much fun watching her. And I will actually write the name of the podcast because I've totally forgotten the name of it now. Oh, Youthful Fiber. Youthful as in EWETHFUL. Youthful. Very good pun. And so she's got some really, really good ideas on there. One of the other things was that I thought I would use some of the old paper bags. Like, you know, there are so many bags just being chucked out again because we're now getting so much stuff in brown bags and not plastic bags, that I thought I might cut them up and put my logo on there for the wool, because I bought some second-hand wool off Marketplace again this week. I shouldn't be buying anything, but I did. And it's a very, very old, and it came on the skein like this. I tried to look up this company, and I don't think they exist anymore. In fact, if I had to guess, I would say this is probably from the 90s, maybe. Could even be earlier. But you can see this is the paper that was on the outside of the wool. And I thought maybe I could get an ink stamp, or I could print a whole, you know, like a sheet of it off using old paper bags, and then use that to put around my skeins of wool. But it's an idea, so we'll see what happens there. So maybe I should tell you a little bit about this wool. So I bought a bag full of it. So it's actually 1.2 kilos of wool, and it was only $40. I don't even know what that is in English money or American money, but Etsy.com will tell you that. If I can, I will pop it up somewhere on the screen now. But one of the colors was quite neutral. It wasn't, you know, that really light whitish neutral. It was more of an oatmeal neutral. And I was like, oh, I think I might dye that up and give it a go. So I did use my landscape dyes. Didn't bring them up, so I'm not going to be able to show you that. But I did use some landscape dyes, and I ended up mixing two colors. And this is what I've got. I really like that. It's like a bluey green. And I'm very happy with that. So this is a double knit or an 8-ply, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to make with it yet, but I like it. So really, what a bargain. And then the other 600 was in this brown, which is actually, I feel like a different type of wool, because that other one's a bit coarser than this. They're both double knits, but natural undyed color, coal. I don't understand how coal can be brown, because coal, surely coal is grey or a shade of black. But anyway, you can call your wool whatever you want. In fact, I don't even know what I'm going to be calling my wool. It's one of the things I really admire about the woman on the Nutiden yarns, Oner och Eier. She comes up with the most amazing names for her wool, and they've often got special meaning from the Swedish words that she uses. So I don't know, I'm just going to have to get some inspiration from somewhere, but all that to come. So I don't really know that I've got much else to talk about today, but I'm, like I say, so grateful that you've tuned in, and I hope this hasn't been too boring for you. And I will give you an update of the mill in a week or two, and I'm going to put a couple of little videos at the end of this, and some pictures of Red. She's been very good. In fact, maybe she's not being very good because she's not here, so she could be doing something she shouldn't be doing somewhere else. I'll have a little look for her in a minute, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye. So this is a beautiful spring morning. It's going to be a good day today. And Roger's already down at the shed, working on it, getting the guttering up so that we can connect to the water tank. Part of my whole process of what I want to do is to have low impact on the environment when I produce my yarn and fleece. And to do that, I wanted to collect rainwater. Hello, Bubba and Lammykins, a little red. Bubba and Lammykins are very, very tame. Come on, Bubba. They think that I am the bringer of treats, and little Red, of course. Come on, Red. Touch, touch. Good girl. She likes egg. So let's go down the back. This is very messy. It is a work in progress, and when the mill gets up, hi. When the mill gets up, nope, you cannot come through. No, come on, Red. No, 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 you're not coming through because we are. Roger doesn't want you in the shed pooping. So here is the junkyard, although all of this is very useful to me. And at the back, I have 4 beehives, so there's 2 there, 2 at the other end. And then this is the shed. Some of it's very rustic and some of it has been done up nicely. And one day, in the not too distant future, the machines are going to go in here. And then at the top of the stairs, I'm going to make that into a gathering craft smoko. We say smoko, but no one smokes. Work area. And then at the back here, this is also the sheep area, but the children play here. Make their little huts and forts and bits and pieces. And I have some chickens down here who basically free range and roam around. I have some chickens at the top as well. There's my hazelnut trees. And there's my chickens. But, you know, it's a mess. Let's just focus on those beautiful arum lilies because it's spring. All I could hear was plop, 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 and now I find Red popped into this dirty, muddy bucket that's got compost or something at the bottom. She is going to need a bath before bedtime tonight, but she's having fun. Red? Red, what are you doing? Hey? Okay, this is one of the things I love about New Zealand, and it gave my husband and I a big chuckle when we came over from Africa, but this is an honesty box. So I'm driving to Tauranga. Here are avos for $1, and so you just pick the avos that you want, and then you pop the money into the honesty box. And there you go. Boom. There's another one over there.